Welcome, Stache, to another episode of Stache Sports. Welcome, Stache, to another episode of Stache Sports. Today, the Los Angeles Chargers signed Derwin James to one of the highest paid safety contracts in NFL history. That's our NFL breaking news today. And our other breaking news is Andrew McCutchen got designated for assignment that I just saw, which means he got cut from the Texas Rangers. He used to be on the Pittsburgh Pirates, but was on the Texas Rangers last year and got cut from the Rangers. It's going to be interesting to see if anybody picks up Andrew McCutchen, because Andrew McCutchen's a little older now and hasn't been doing so good. He was hitting like a 197, which isn't good in baseball, so that's probably why he got cut or designated for assignment. So it's going to be interesting to see if anyone picks up Andrew McCutchen. We'll come back to Pittsburgh. We might need him because the person we got, Marcell Ozuna, is not doing much better anyway in his hitting, and he's our DH. But the Pirates have a lot of people up now. They have the password, and they have somebody else I'll get into later that could be in DH. So we'll get into that later, and we'll talk more about the Buccos later in today's episode. Breaking news also last night. Packers running back Josh Jacobs got released from jail today, but he got arrested for several domestic violent charges pending further investigation. Jake, according to Brown County Jail, records of strangulation and suffocation charges and a felony, but other 4 charges are misdemeanors. But it's going to be interesting to see what the NFL does with this, because the NFL has no tolerance to some of these stuff. There's no tolerance to drugs and other stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and what happens to the Green Bay Packers and the running back. I mean, I know sometimes it doesn't pan out and sometimes it could be not true, but that's not good to go in the early parts of OTAs and have your star running back arrested for multiple counts of domestic violence charges. But it's going to be interesting to see, and we'll keep our eye on this on Stache Sports too, and keep our eye on this to see what happens with Josh Jacobs and see where that goes. But right now, he got released from jail. That's all we know right now, and then going to a further investigation to see what happened to Josh Jacobs and to see why Josh Jacobs got arrested for domestic violence. I mean, that's not good in any case. I wonder if that's going to ruin his career, because a lot of people have got arrested for domestic violence, like Ray Rice. His career is over with after that too. It's going to be interesting to see if he does. I wonder if that means he's going to get a 4-game suspension or game suspension. But only time will tell as the cops in the NFL, in legal terms, investigate this even more. But we'll see. Also, Jason Kelce is going to be is joining the ownership for the Cleveland Indians or Cleveland Guardians now. Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce are both from Cleveland, so that's nice for him, but he's going to be part of the Cleveland Indians. But that's another breaking news today. As I said earlier, Chargers made Derwin James from Florida State the NFL highest paid safety again. The Los Angeles Chargers and Derwin James Jr. have agreed to a 3-year, $75.6 million contract extension, making him the highest paid safety for the second time in his career. His Nathan David, whatever. The deal includes $57.5 million guaranteed. That's a lot of money guaranteed. James earned his 4th All-Pro honor last season, was entering his final year of his 4-year extension that made him the highest paid safety in NFL history in 2022. His new deal resets the market at $25.2 million per year, passing the record contract Ravens safety Kyle Hamilton, who sucks. It's signed in 2025. General Manager Joe Hans had the thought of the offseason to re-signing Derwin James as a priority, and the Chargers got that deal done as the team begins OTAs. James has been one of the Chargers' best and most important defenses since he drafted him in 2008. I mean, he has been really good. Even though I'm a diehard Steelers fan, Derwin James has been a really good safety, so he definitely is worth that money. I mean, he does help the Chargers and help that hardball that's there with that defense. It's going to be interesting to see how good he is because he is turning 30, but I mean, he's starting to get in his prime, so that's a good contract for him. And that means Derwin James, at least right now, won't be in a different uniform and will be in a Chargers uniform, a team that drafted him in 2018. I mean, Derwin James is a good player, so that's nice to see that Derwin James has got a contract extension. Jets trade special teams Ivory Charles to the Seahawks. That's breaking news too. Special team player Ivory Charles is going from last place New York Jets to the Super Bowl champion Seahawks. It will be announced on Wednesday. Charles, at 29, was traded for a 2028 conditional 7th round pick. The Seahawks waived wide receiver Tyron Rudolph to make room for Charles. Charles has fallen off the radar after missing 25 seasons and to recover from a torn ACL. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can become from his ACL, but that's a decent trade. I mean, if it's a good special teams player, that gives the Seahawks a good special teams player, and they didn't have to lose that much but 7th round pick. And most of the time, unless if you're Brock Purdy or exceptional cases, 7th round picks never really pan out in the NFL. So that's a good trade for the Seahawks if it works out, or if not, then they just cut their ties with him and don't lose that much and just lose the 7th round pick. So it's not a bad trade all around. Supreme Court won't intervene in the Brian Flores suit versus the NFL. The Washington Supreme Court on Tuesday referred to the interference of the discretion-laden lawsuit by former whatever. I don't know about that one. But that's interesting. It's going to be, and also Patrick Mahomes, who tore his ACL last year, was on the field for OTAs. That's a good sign for the Chiefs as they go into the season and know they might be able to have their quarterback start game 1 of a regular season. If not, they might go with Justin Fields, the backup quarterback who played for the Jets and last year in the Steelers the year before and was drafted by the Chicago Bears. I mean, he's okay, but he's a backup quarterback, but we'll see what happens. But we'll keep our eye on that. But those are late breaking news from the NFL. We'll have to keep our eye on Stache Sports the next couple of days to see what happens with Josh Jacobs and to see what Josh Jacobs does. It's going to be interesting to see what Josh Jacobs does and what happens with him. I mean, that's not good to be arrested for domestic violence charges in the NFL or any sport or anything for that matter. But we'll be interested to see what happens to Josh Jacobs and to see what happens with that. Donald Trump intends to join a game at the MSG Finals for the New York Knicks. It's going to be interesting to see the New York Knicks play because last night the Oklahoma City Thunder won that game, even though I picked the Spurs to win. But I still think it's going to get 7. I think the Spurs win in San Antonio when I go to San Antonio for Game 6. But we'll get to that more on later when that comes on Saturday. Jeez, that's Saturday. I have 2 days. Oh, wait, it's Thursday. Oh, my bad. The Thunder won 127-114 last night. I mean, the Spurs almost had a couple comebacks, where they almost came back a couple times, but they fell too short. It's going to be interesting to see if the Spurs can bounce back and force a Game 7 on Thursday, or will it be the Thunder versus the Knicks? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I know some people don't like the Thunder because they think they flop a lot, which I do too sometimes. But the Thunder are a good basketball team. SGA is a good player, and the rest of them are good players. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Thunder and to see if the Thunder can win or if the Spurs will force a Game 7 and go back to Oklahoma City for a winner-take-all Game 7. I mean, if I think it's going to be, sometimes I think the NBA likes to have horse Game 7s, so that's why I think there might be Game 7 because they get more money. Because the earliest the game starts next week is next Wednesday when the finals start. Because the Knicks already sweep, so there's no more Eastern Conference games. It's the next one in the Eastern Conference, and they're back in the NBA Finals for the first time in 27 years and have not won an NBA championship since 1960s. It'll be interesting to see how good the Knicks do. A lot of people and experts think that whoever wins the West is going to win the NBA chips this year. But the New York Knicks are looking pretty good right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what the New York Knicks do and to see how good the New York Knicks are. I mean, the New York Knicks are one of the better teams right now, so it's going to be interesting to see what the New York Knicks do and how good they are. But I still think that the Eastern Conference team, whoever is going to win it. But it's going to be interesting, like I said. Victor Wembanyama is won by the NBA for skipping media. I guess the NBA doesn't like it when they skip media. Some of those people should go there and be like Marshawn Lynch did a couple years ago when he was with the Seahawks in his ultimate classic. I'm just here so I won't get fined to the media sometimes. Coach Mazzulla for my beloved Boston Celtics has won Coach of the Year again. That's a quite accomplishment. Coach Mazzulla is one of the greatest coaches and did pretty well this year, even though we got bounced in the first round by Philadelphia, which I think would have been a different story if Jason Tatum wasn't hurt in the final game. But we got bounced by Philadelphia, the 70 losers, in the first round. But like I said, I think it'd be a different story if Jason Tatum didn't get hurt and was out with a knee soreness. But that's another story for another day. But congratulations again to Joe Mazzulla for winning Coach of the Year. I mean, he did a pretty good job to get them to the playoffs, only having Jaylen Brown for the majority part of the season. Who would have thought that Jason Tatum would have came back that early from a torn Achilles, but he did, and was able to perform well in the rest of the regular season, that he was able to perform well, play in. But he was able to play in some of the regular season in the playoffs, even though he missed Game 7 due to knee soreness. But we'll be back next year. Joe Mazzulla is one of the great coaches. I mean, Brad Stevens was a good coach too, but Brad Stevens is a better GM in my opinion, and got Coach Joe Mazzulla, which is a good coach. I know a lot of Celtic fans like to complain sometimes about Joe Mazzulla, but I think Joe Mazzulla is a really good basketball coach. Atkins is going to return as the Cleveland Cavaliers coach. Some Cavalier fans don't like that because they think he's the reason they stunk and blew a lead. I mean, they blew a 22-point lead in 7 minutes, and the games 3 and 4, they weren't competitive at all. Even in Game 4, they weren't competitive. That was kind of a boring game to watch. I mean, the Cavaliers weren't competitive. I mean, I guess if you're a Knicks fan, it was a good game to watch, but if you're just an average basketball fan and your team's trying to like the Boston Celtics, that was kind of a boring game to watch, just to watch a team get smoked by 40 points or 37 points. I mean, I know, like, if you're a Knicks fan, like I said, it's a good game, but that wasn't fun to watch as an average basketball fan. Last night, the Vegas Golden Knights swept the President's Trophy, Colorado Avalanche. For those of you that might be new to hockey, the President's Trophy is awarded to the team with the best record in all of hockey, and now it's the Colorado Avalanche. But sometimes the President's Trophy, the last couple of years, have a curse, and the President's Trophy is not geared to go to the finals. I don't know what it is. I guess it's a curse, or they lose in the finals, or whatever, for the last few years. If they do make it to the finals, the best team, I guess they have a chip on their shoulder, and sometimes they can't own up to it. But the last few years, the President's Trophy has not been doing well, if you get that. And some people think it could be a curse, like Dan Housen curses people. But some people think that could be a curse, and maybe that's why Colorado lost. But congratulations to Vegas. I mean, Vegas won 2-1 last night. It looked like Colorado was going to come back near the end there, but they fell too short, and Vegas ended up sweeping. Vegas won all 4 games and swept them. So now Vegas awaits the winner of Montreal Canadiens and the Carolina Hurricanes that play tonight. It's going to be interesting to see who plays the Las Vegas Golden Knights. But the Las Vegas Golden Knights are back in the finals for the first time in a couple of years. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights have been a good team. I mean, it explains a lot when you have an expansion draft, because an expansion team, you can get all the good players. I mean, they got one of the best goaltenders for the Penguins, and Marc-Andre Fleury, because the Penguins decided to save Matt Murray, which in this today, I think was a bad decision. I think they should have got rid of Matt Murray and kept Marc-Andre Fleury, even though Fleury's retired now, but Fleury still had a great career after that. And Matt Murray had an okay career. Not great at any standards, but that is some hard decisions they have to do sometimes. But we'll see what the Penguins do next year with this new goaltender they got, Narfer Sheilov and Mirachov. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in the goal next year. But I think if the Penguins would have kept Marc-Andre Fleury, might have more Stanley Cups to be more competitive in some of the playoff series. because that's something the Penguins have been missing. It's a good, consistent goaltender for years to come. And I think Marc-Andre Fleury would have been that before he would have retired. And who knows, maybe he would have needed more money and been out the door after that, but you never know. I think the Penguins should have kept Marc-Andre Fleury. That's just my personal opinion. But, I mean, it makes sense why the Vegas Golden Knights are always good because they have, I mean, I know now they're dealing with cap, but when you become an expansion team, you get all the good players in the expansion draft, it helps to have a superstar team to make it to the Stanley Cup. I mean, I know the Stanley Cup is one of the hardest to get to in the playoffs, but we'll see what happens with that. It's going to be interesting to see what Vegas does in the next round. But congratulations to the Vegas Golden Knights on making it to the next round and seeing who they play next. Mark Stone, assisted by Brandon McNabb and Shane Feodor, had the first goal. Nicole Smith, assisted by Dylan Coughlin and Mick Dowd, had the second goal. And then Gabriel Lindbergh had the only goal for Colorado. But Colorado lost all 4 games. So that's interesting. But the President's Trophy that had the best team got swept. But like I said, sometimes it just depends on how good they're playing in the playoffs. It doesn't mean he could be the best team in the regular season. But if you're the best team in the regular season, it doesn't matter as long as you're the best team in the playoffs. And the Vegas Golden Knights looking like a really sharp team right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they play against whoever they play against. The Carolina Hurricanes have won back-to-back games in overtime. Will tonight's game go to overtime? That's the real question. Or will Carolina or Montreal be able to win in regulation? Right now, Carolina's up 2-1. The Montreal Canadiens, boo Canada, are looking to make a tie series and make it go to Game 6. And making it look to go to Game 6 and not be a gentleman's sweep by the Carolina Hurricanes. But will the Carolina Hurricanes win? I mean, they had 2 good wins overtime, but they've been close. Let's hope it's a close game again, so it's something good to watch tonight if you watch hockey, but we'll see. It's in Montreal tonight, so Montreal gets swept both games in Canada, or will they be able to win one and force a Game 6 and be able to go back to Canada for at least one more home game in the season, if not more. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think the Carolina Hurricanes win tonight, and I think that's what's going to happen. But you heard it here first on Stache, and I think they win in regulation tonight, and I don't think it goes to overtime. But I mean, it could go to overtime. The last 2 games did go to overtime, so it'll be interesting to see if this one goes to overtime or if they win in regulation. The Vegas Golden Knights reached the first Stanley Cup in 3 years, or 9 seasons. That's quite impressive, but like I said earlier in the video, it's not that hard to do when you have an expansion draft and you get all these superstar players. And yes, I know now they have to worry about the salary cap, but they still have a lot of superstar players and they're gelling well right now and playing well like a team. So that's something good that they can deal with right now. But we'll see what happens if they play Carolina or Montreal and see who wins. But right now they're going to have some rest off because at least that's going to Game 5. To have a couple games off before they have to play again. The rest going to bother them. I mean, Carolina lost the first game, and some people can say that the rest might have bothered them. But now they've won 2 back-to-back games in overtime. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see if Carolina wins because Carolina is looking like one of the better teams right now. But I mean, they did lose one of the games, but they did win the last 2 games in overtime. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the Carolina Hurricanes and see if the Carolina Hurricanes can win in every game. 2 games. Like I said yesterday, I'm so glad that Evgeny Malkin re-signed and didn't mess around and we don't have to look at him in a number jersey, because that would have been hard to see Evgeny Malkin after 21 seasons in Penguin uniform, being a different uniform, and 20 seasons being a different uniform for a different team. But we don't have to worry about that because yesterday, like I said in the video, if you watched, the Penguins re-signed Evgeny Malkin to a $5.5 million deal. Malkin, who turned 40 on July 1st, was slated to be an unrestricted free agent, which he won't now, so that's good. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens to these other players But it's going to be interesting to see what happens to these other players, like Anthony Mantha, who had one of his career years. Are the Penguins going to re-sign him, or is Anthony Mantha going to be other players? I'll keep my eye on to that. And are the Penguins going to try to make a big trade to try to use some of their draft capital with some of their young players to get a big-name player in here to help with Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and the Big Three to try to see if we can get one more Stanley Cup before they retire or before they go off somewhere else? That's going to be an interesting question for Kyle Dubas this year. So far, I think Kyle Dubas has been a really good general manager for the Penguins and has exceeded expectations. He's a lot better than that Philadelphia GM, but I thought was dumber than the bag of bricks. But he's doing a lot better. I mean, I think it's because the Philadelphia picked, but I think he's just trying to sabotage us. So that's why we got a guy from Toronto, but has no ill will against the Penguins. And Kyle Dubas is a young guy that's trying to prove himself. And I think he got the end of the raw deal in Toronto. But I'm glad he's here now because I think he's doing a good job. He's had a good couple of trades and had some bad trades. But we'll see what he does. If we can trade away a couple of picks and get a player. But we'll keep our eye on that. Because now the Penguins offseason has got in full swing. We'll see what the Penguins do and see who is willing to part ways with the players and willing to play with the Penguins. Listen to the Penguins trade offers. Because if you trade, you need two people to party. And I don't know how many good hockey players we're going to have this year in their free agency, but the Penguins sign if they don't sign like Anthony Mantha or sign some of the other players. But I'll keep my eye on that and talk more about that when that comes around. The U.S. defends Australia and set up a quarterfinals Worlds versus Canada. U.S. versus Canada again. Hopefully the U.S. can win. Hopefully the U.S. can win the National Hockey League this year because the U.S. won in the Olympics. So let's just hope that the U.S. can sweep the hockey and win the Stanley Cup too. Either Carolina or Vegas, if Montreal wins. But we'll see. It's going to be an interesting year for hockey, but let's just hope the United States can sweep in both like they did since they won the Winter Olympics this year in hockey, and men's and women's. Let's hope the men's United States team can win in the Stanley Cup and not give the Stanley Cup to Team Canada, and the U.S. can be strong in hockey this year and show that hockey is a U.S. sport now and not a Canadian sport. Missing the playoffs after 3 straight seasons, great questions about the franchise. Could they achieve the veteran, homegrown Stanley Cup winning core of Sidney Crosby, Letang, and Malkin all playing in their late 30s? I mean, they did pretty good last year. Letang was an off year, but maybe Letang will be better this year for the Penguins. We'll see. I mean, he did have a decent year, but some games he didn't show up and didn't look that good in. But we'll see that he can do better in some of these games. But Letang needs to show up better, or they need to move on from Letang, in my personal opinion. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, he was a decent player last year, but maybe he was dealt with injuries. But we'll see. I mean, at least they finally made the playoffs after 3 seasons of missing it, when it seemed like the Penguins are always in the playoffs for more years to come. And they got a new head coach in Dan Muse, and Dan Muse is looking pretty good. Malkin also had 3 points in 6 playoff games this year, so that's good. I mean, we need to make it past the first round and not get swept by the beat by the Philadelphia Criers. But that was good. He had 6 points, and he had a point per game in each season. I mean, I know it's going to be 40, but he's still looking pretty good and had one of his better seasons of late last season, even though he dealt with some shoulder injuries. Malkin looked pretty good last year, and I'm glad they re-signed him, like I said. Getting the deal done for Malkin means the Pittsburgh Penguins have at least 17 players from last season who will remain under contract on team control. Puck Media projects the Penguins will have $37.4 million in free agency to address roster that has players such as Nicole Carey, Kevin Hayes, Anthony Mantha, and Stuart Skinner, who all reach opening workout today, re-sign the club before free agency begins on July 1st. I mean, that's going to be interesting. I think Stuart Skinner is going to be gone, but will Anthony Manflet and Nicole Kari and Kevin Hayes re-sign with the Penguins? Because they have Mirashop that's doing pretty good for the baby Penguins right now, and Mirashop is doing pretty good, and I think they probably keep Arthur Sheloff if Sheloff isn't a free agent. So that's why I think Stuart Skinner is going to be shown the door and be in a different uniform next year. I don't think they're going to re-sign Skinner, but Anthony Manflet, Nicole Kari, and Kevin Hayes might be his line free agency before the free agency period begins, or they might let them walk. But I keep my eye on that and talk to you more about that when that happens. But those are big news. But the big news for the Penguins yesterday was they re-signed Evgeny Malkin, which is great. The Pirates have won back-to-back games against the Chicago Cubs and looking to win 3 games out of 4-game set tonight at Bubba Chandler. But Bubba Chandler's last couple games, the Pirates have not been looking good. Will the Pirates finally be able to get another win at Bubba Chandler, or will it be another loss? I hope the Penguins win tonight, but they need to have better hitting and need to have a better bullpen. Some of the games, Bubba Chandler needs to have better control. That's something about Bubba Chandler has been struggling with, his control. He's been pitching a lot of balls. But if Bubba Chandler can have a good game, I think the Pirates can win tonight. They're going against Jameson Tynan, that gets to be for the Pirates tonight. Jameson Tynan, I think, is pitching for the Cubs tonight, and he gets to be on the Pirates. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the Pirates. In Game 1, they won 2-1. Henry Davis, who never hits home runs and has a few home runs this year, finally had a home run to help the Pirates eke out that win 2-1. And I think O'Neal Cruz had another home run to make it 1-1. We'll see. A loud double to the left, and Horowitz scored, making it 1-0 in that game. And then Davis had a home run, making it 2-1. And Davis' 2-1 home run left the Pirates to win that game and win the first game of the series. And last night, the Pirates bats were alive. They won 12-1. Let's hope they can win tonight, because sometimes when the Pirates bats are alive, the next day they don't score as many runs, and when they score more than 10 runs, sometimes it's hard for the Pirates to score more runs for the next day. That's why my grandma would always say, I hope they save some of the runs for tomorrow. But we'll see what the Pirates do. It's going to be interesting. Reynolds doubled to the left, Griffin scored, and Lau scored. Connor Griffin finally led off. Connor Griffin should be our leadoff hitter. He has a lot of stolen bases and makes noise when he gets on the base paths and doing a lot better. I mean, I know they had O'Neal Cruz, but O'Neal Cruz keeps striking out, so I think they need to keep Connor Griffin as leadoff hitter. And I'm glad that our coach finally did that, and we'll see if he keeps doing that. And we'll see if he keeps doing that, or put someone else as leadoff tonight. But let's see if Connor Griffin needs to be on leadoff. Cruz singled to the left and Reynolds scored, making it 3-0 in the first inning. Valdez home run to center, and Cruz scored. Valdez is an outfielder right now, but filling in right now for Ryan O'Harn, because Ryan O'Harn is on injured reserve. And also the Packers is doing good. But Valdez is hitting a lot better lately. So it's going to be interesting to see when Ryan O'Harn comes back, what they're going to do with Valdez. Are they going to send Valdez and the Packers back down? Or if Ozuna doesn't keep hitting, are they going to put one of these guys like Brian Reynolds, O'Neal Cruz, Valdez, or the Packers in for the DH spot? Because on the nightly sports call, they don't think they're going to get rid of Marcell Ozuna, because Marcell Ozuna is making $21 million a year, or making $12 million a year, excuse me, or whatever it is. But he's making a lot of money, so they don't think to get rid of him. But he hasn't been hitting, and that's something you need for a DH. That's why the Texas Rangers have designated Andrew McCutchen for assignment. When McCutchen comes back to Pittsburgh, I mean, a lot of Pittsburgh Pirates fans should be happy about that, because a lot of Pirate fans are upset, but they got Marcell Ozuna as our DH over Andrew McCutchen, even though both of them aren't doing really hot this year, and both of them need to start doing a lot better. Gonzalez singled to the left, right, Lau scored, and Reynolds to third. Valdez walked, Reynolds scored, Cruz second, and Gonzalez to third. Horowitz hit a sacrifice to center. Gonzalez scored, Valdez and Cruz. Spencer Horwitz is looking really good and looking like he could be our everyday first baseman, which is something the Pirates have missed. I'm glad we got Spencer Horwitz last year from the Toronto Blue Jays, a couple years ago from the Toronto Blue Jays. That looks like a good trade for the Pirates. Griffin scored an error, Reynolds a safe effort on a throwing error by third baseman Bargman, and Reynolds safe at second on an error. Horwitz home run, making it 10-1. Magnum grounded out to third, and Trio scored, and Zuna singled. Wow, Zuna finally had a hit. Something I've been complaining about all the time, and Zuna finally had a hit. That's something the Pirates really desperately needed, was for Zuna to have a hit, and he did. I'm glad Zuna had a hit, but like I said, if you can't keep hitting consistently, that's something the Pirates need to do, is see what they can do at DH. Maybe they need to rest him a couple of days to get his confidence back up, or do something else, because they need to do something to try to get him back to hitting. Or maybe they need, I don't know if they can get rid of him like they said, since he has so much money, so they can try to find a trade to maybe see if somebody else wants him and try to get a bullpen arm or another starting arm, because that's something the Penguins need. They need really, the Pirates, not the Penguins, but that's something the Pirates really need, is help in their bullpen, but we'll see. With that being said, I think the Orioles beat the Rays tonight. I think the Pirates beat the Cubs. I think the Braves beat the Red Sox. I think the Mets beat the Reds. The Mets are 22 and 33. Wow. And the Mets have one of the highest payrolls. Who would have thought the Mets would be this bad when they have one of the highest payrolls? I don't know if it's coaching or what it is, but the Mets need to shape up because they have one of the highest payrolls, and the Pirates are 29-26 and don't have as much of a high payroll as the New York Mets do, and they have better win total and aren't below 500 like the New York Mets are. But I think the Mets beat the Reds tonight. I think the Yankees beat the Royals. I think the Rangers beat the Astros. I think the Dodgers beat the Rockies. The Blue Jays won 2-1 against the Miami Marlins. That's good. The Cleveland Indians won 3-2 against the Nationals. The Mariners are going to win 6-0 or more right now. I think the Giants win. I think the Phillies win. I think the Tigers win. I think the Twins win. St. Louis lost 2-1 against the Brewers. But we'll see. And it might be trade deadlines coming up soon, so we'll see what happens if anybody gets traded, but we'll see. But thank you for watching every episode of Stache Sports. If you have anything, please leave it. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. But thank you for watching every episode of Stache Sports. This is Stache Sports signing off.